Yeah, dude. On that, I think let's roll into it. Let's keep it going because I'm interested about what you guys do. I know we talked a little bit about it briefly, but so you do like custom SaaS builds. You do hosting for people. What all does your company do?
So it does a lot. It probably does more than what it should. I have, technology is it's an animal. It's a wild animal. It's very complex. It's very diverse. Things from as simple as, websites to, custom development where, the mobile applications, the custom SaaS, software as a service, they're huge money makers.
Sure.
Because it's all in the cloud. It's fractions to keep up and maintain. And it's just the lower overhead you have, right? The higher the profit. So it's a very, these SaaS programs have really changed the way the world communicates, mobilizes, shares data.
Yeah.
I mean, the first part of my career, I was in construction running multi-million-dollar jobs in Boston. And, back then you used to send blueprints in this tube from UPS. Now people are sending you massive spec books, and it's just no matter what age group you're in, like we're in a digital society.
Yeah.
I mean, can't tell you. I mean, when I come back from visiting clients, you walk out the airport and you see this 85-year-old grandmother texting her grandkids.
Yep.
It's like the tech, the older versus younger it's not a thing anymore. Everyone's
somewhere online or somewhere with technology.
Yeah. Do you when you pay your credit cards or your bills, do you mail in a paper check or you pay it online?
That's online.
That's everyone.
Yeah.
So everyone is somehow using tech.
Yeah.
Field Force Systems, it's so from the websites, the mobile applications, the custom SaaS build outs, it also does things like help desk. Remote support, program's not opening, a computer's not functioning right, you remote in, you can fix it on site, on the spot.
Yeah.
There's, it does outsourced IT services, cloud integrations, cloud management. And a lot of people don't really understand tech, and it's a turnoff because it's a difficult thing to wrap your head around.
Well, I was just going to ask you about this because in the past company that I was at, it was a SaaS company doing record keeping for aircraft, which is traditionally a very heavily paper-based industry. So, I mean, when you go to sell this stuff or you go to meet with people and start looking at these solutions, I mean, are you running into that hesitancy of, well, we do it this way, we've always done it this way, kind of like going to the cloud is scary, things like that? I mean, do you encounter those kinds of objections and those concerns? Yeah, I mean, and I would be more alarmed if people are just like, hell yeah, let's do it.
Because, in business, good business people, they, okay, what am I going to expect? How, is my data going to be secure? What are the options? And we like those questions because, it's a matter of integrity and, you're a real business person, right?
Sure.
There's so many different, I have a mechanical contractor client, for example, and they spend upwards of $50,000 on in-house servers.
Wow.
So every time they would max out a terabyte hard drive, they would buy another one. But it's so cost inefficient. Your network goes down. It's, they're a 50-person company. So it's like, all right, everybody, like, go get coffee. Meanwhile, the clock's still ticking, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like, all right, like you guys are, it's an expense. So,
and you're waiting for somebody to take care of that. And plus,
right.
like, I mean, some of that localized stuff, like I saw it in aviation, there was a company that had a software that was all hosted in-house for them, but people would remote server into that system, and they got ransomwared multiple times. And they had multiple customers whose entire operations were just like, shit out of luck, like for 2-3 days, and they just couldn't do anything.
Right. Yeah, a contractor here in Naples, they're very much set on-prem. Well, when you can't access, you got your contracts, your purchase orders, all your administrative stuff that, when your network goes down, it's down. You gotta wait for your providers on, availability.
Sure.
And then you got time to fix it. And it's just, you go into the cloud and like 99% of issues are addressed remotely.
Yeah.
And a lot of it goes away because the exchange of getting away from on-prem is that, for example, there's cloud servers that, it's like 87 cents for 500 gigs. 500 gigs is a lot of freaking space.
Yeah. 87 cents for 500 gigs?
So you take, and you have your ingress and egress costs. Ingress is the data going into the server. Egress is the data coming down. But, you take that 87 cents for 500 gigs and to get to 50 grand, you're going to be there for a very long time,
Yeah.
And embedded in that cost is, the maintenance, their repairs, the upkeep. It's all right, cloud company, this is on you now.
Yeah.
So in your uptime, nothing is guaranteed, right? You can't say something's 100% because stuff happens. But, to have a 99.9999% uptime.
Infinite nines.
Yeah. It's just, there's the hardware side of technology and there's the software side of technology. And it's just in cost effectiveness and ROI, the hardware cannot touch the software.
Yeah.
If you use QuickBooks Online, they're in a data center. If you use, these other major SaaS programs, they're all using data centers because it's so efficient and you don't have to worry about, and they take the burden, they take the hurdle of the upkeep and the data centers.
Yeah.
But, as opposed to having your own in-house server and maintaining it and, the network issues that go alongside of it, it's not worth it. It's just so cheap to. Yeah. Not that cheap is the way to proceed, but it's
one of those innovations that drastically reduces costs and makes things much better. And as things get mobile too, like I've noticed this, the types of systems that I like using for my workflows and stuff are much more mobile based,
Yes.
Like even, have you ever heard of Canva, like the design software? So they've got a mobile app too, and I just found out about this, but like you can design something on the computer and then you can pull it the exact same thing up on your phone and almost with the same flexibility be able to design that same stuff like right from your phone. And the interfaces are pretty good. I don't know, it's crazy where this stuff is going, and that connectivity that the cloud has, it does make the workflow easier, and you can start to think a little bit more openly about where you are when you work or how you plan to work and things like that, because I don't have to come back here in order to get that design. I can log onto my computer and go online, or I could be on my phone and do that,
there's programs out there that you can try on clothes without actually going to the store.
Yeah.
It's an augmented reality that, you click on a suit, it throws the suit on top of you, sunglasses. It's just like, this is the level of technology we're going. It's, and if you don't need to have like a brick and mortar, there's some businesses won't be able to get away from it, like a Lowe's or a car mechanic or.
Sure.
But, you don't, if COVID kind of showed anything, it was really that what most everyday businesses are doing, you don't need to be in an office.
Yeah.
You get rid of your office rent, your office expenses.
Well, you said you did that. So what has it been like navigating COVID as a business owner and having, a remote team?
It's been great. It's the best thing I've ever done. You realize like how much money as a business owner you're just pissing away. a company is made up of its people, right? It's not the CEO, it's not the top execs, it's the people that make the company work. And I think a lot of CEOs forget that. But if you can do everything yourself, why do you need everyone around you, right? Like, that's kind of the reality of it.
Sure.
So, when you go to hire people, I mean, not everyone wants to uplift their life. You get someone in Ohio that has, the talent that you want, that your company can really benefit from. And they don't want to, 9 times out of 10, they don't want to leave their friends and family and their whole life that they've built throughout the course of their time.
Sure.
So it's easy. It's even better in a sense of attracting talent, because everything you're doing remotely, everything, there's really not a need to be in office. There's really not.
Yeah.
Unless you're in, again,
an industry or that you need to be somewhere.
Yes.
I think so. Like one of the pieces that I think about, or that I don't know if I worry about it or it's just something I've been thinking about lately because of this, is that for the kids coming out of college and everything like that, what this experience must be like. I don't know if this is liberating or if this is terrible, because part of what was good about being in a job that I was in person, and whether it was in an office or when I worked for Enterprise renting cars and stuff, you're like in person doing this stuff, but you do get to be around a team. You do get to learn from people that are like physically there showing you things, or at least observing them and things like that. I mean, that is like one of the only big areas that I get concerned with. But from the flip side, I do look at what you're saying of just practicality. Like, if you've got a team that works and they're humming along, why do they have to be in office?
And a lot of people, and I guess it partially depends on the social makeup of the individual. Some people work amazing, independently. Some need social structure, but I think everyone's kind of built, programmed to think, working from home, making your own schedule. You see some of these commercials with, a couple walking down the beach, right, and a glass of wine. Like it's this dream to work from home. It's it's really nice, because who the hell wants to travel? Like, who wants to sit in traffic? Nobody does. But so it's really that idea of being independent, not having like an 8 to 5, especially with parents, because they have a difficult schedule. The daycares, the schools, picking up your kids, school activity, like so. Working from home, it's definitely. Major corporations have come out and even announced that full-time jobs are now completely work from home.
Yeah.
It is the brick and mortar, man. It's not effective. You're lighting money on fire.
Yeah.
Like, if your business model allows you to do that, there's no need for it.
Yeah. It is kind of crazy that's a good point, because you look at these different companies that have these huge mega buildings and things. Yes. Some of these buildings it had to have cost, in some cases, billions of dollars to make a single building. And then they're announcing, like, I don't know if Salesforce went totally remote for some people. There's a bunch of companies that are Salesforce or similar to Salesforce, things like that all went almost fully remote for most people. I didn't think about that, but if your business model allows you to just burn cash like that, like something's up. Like,
yes, it's beautiful. It makes because what's one thing that people say, their work-life balance is not equal, right? One's definitely not the other.
Sure.
When you're in like your own space, some people do absolutely amazing, and I've with my company, I've seen productivity and everyone prospering and thriving in their results by not having distractions. People talking in the hallways, people kind of, hey, what, just
sure,
pulling you off your game, basically.
Sure.
I mean, it's definitely what's going to, continue to expand in the future. And, you get a big company like Salesforce, and they're because of their size in the market and because, they pretty much created the idea of CRM.
At least as we know it today.
Yeah. They kind of set the precedent of what the business world does.
Yeah.
Right. They kind of influence it. Oh, this company is doing it. Why don't we look at that? Or,
yeah.
Because, a small business, people forget that small businesses consider up to $20 million. So small, but it's not a little $50,000 business. It's up $20 million is a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
So businesses are always looking ways to cut overhead, make everything, more economic. And
sure.
One of those ways is, dumping $10 grand a month.
Sure.
Rent. Everyone's got Wi-Fi at home. Everyone's got, what are you doing? Like,
yeah, I know it was like it was weird at the beginning of this. I had a friend of mine that was like an accountant. He does accounting up in Boston, actually. And when they switched to work from home, I was like, how's that going? He's like, dude, it sucks because my day doesn't start or end. Some of those types of companies or those types of jobs, I feel like those are the types of people where, I don't know, maybe they just got to figure that out. Because actually, if you think about it, COVID really did start right around tax season.
Yep.
So that's when I talked to him. And he was like, my life sucks right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do see what you're saying. And I had it too once everything started. It was pretty much, like, I still went into the office, but I was one of the only people there. And at a certain point, I just started working from home, and you do realize like how much of your day you just waste.
Yes.
For kind of no reason other than like some weird obligation that you should be doing something or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. You sleep all night, your energy, you recharge, you get up, you spend an hour in the car, and driving makes most people tired, right? So then you get to the office. All right.
Yeah.
Got them. Make my rounds, right?
Yeah.
But you
wake myself back up.
Yeah.
Yep.
But to kind of touch on, what Field Force is doing, it's really a customized. What's your pain point, right? So Field Force Systems is not a product. It's not something you can buy off the shelf. It's some people have pain points where it's my server keeps crashing. It costs more than I'm comfortable spending to keep it up. I keep having failures and it's stopping my business, my employees from doing what everyone needs to do.
Yeah.
And there's multiple ways to lose money, right? Like bad processes, bad practices, inefficient systems, and everything, the time clock doesn't stop, right?
Sure.
So,
yeah, you might feel like you're like, oh, I don't want to spend that on the system. But when you look at your actual current expenses and what it costs you, that's where you're going to have to dig in and see where the actual loss and where the actual gain lies.
Yes. And the beauty of the custom business solution is it's not a product. Tell us what you're struggling with, what you're not happy with, what you'd like to see, what ideas you have, and we can offer those solutions around pretty much anything in IT.
Yeah. So why did you set the business up that way, or did that just kind of naturally happen?
I had started, like I said, the first part of my career I was in construction, and I was using the major BMS, building automation systems, building management systems. And the company I was working for at the time, that company had accounts all over the country, certainly all over the region as well. And, part of that function was, I was logging into building automation systems, and I got really good with like the logic, the programming, the graphics, and it really amazed me because when I was growing up, I think we're probably the same age. We had those passbooks that used to walk into the bank and the loud typewriter would like list your balances, right?
Yeah.
Now you can send money to the other side of the world at your fingertips.
Yeah.
Like, technology has allowed that. So the technology, going from, mercury thermostats, the little liquid in the,
Sure.
now everything can be controlled remotely.
Yeah.
So it really piqued my interest, and it was like, all right, how can I do this on a full-time basis? And it just, went into the custom development, the mobile apps, the cloud services, the outsourced IT, and
did it just kind of come as you got an opportunity, you ran with it, another opportunity came up, ran
Yes.
with it, and then just building and building and building on it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a lot of contacts in those industries, and it's an industry that needs a lot of help.
Yeah.
They're not tech guys. They're building our houses. They're building our buildings. They're building, So
The tech isn't the primary focus. The primary focus is getting the job done.
Right.
And I mean, did you notice that a lot initially when you start talking to these people that it wasn't even a thought that they needed to change these systems? They might say, this system sucks, or
Yeah.
I hate this, it's a real pain in the ass, but it wasn't a thought of like, oh, if you actually use it this way, like how you use your banking,
Right.
you can get X result and it'll save you this amount of time. And how you're banging your head against the wall with this.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that anymore because this doesn't even exist anymore. This isn't even a problem.
Right.
I mean, did you notice that was when you started having these conversations, was that how people looked at it?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, everyone has a pain point, right? You don't have 110% perfect scenario.
Sure.
It might be 98, 99, but a lot of people don't know where to begin, what questions to ask, that there even are options, where to look, so you get, a resource, like Field Force Systems, and it's, what are you struggling with? Well, this is what we can do. This is your options. This is how we can, build this out. This is how we can solve your problem.
Yeah.
Because the need is, how are you going to fix my issue?
Yeah.
How are you going to put my pain points to rest?
Yeah.
And I would, websites, right? So in this region, there's some contractors think that, well, we don't advertise. Well, a website, the misconception of a website, it's not advertising. Advertising is driving your business out there and showing people that you exist. The websites now in the digital society that we're in, it's more of the credential check. What are you doing? What are you capable of?
Yep.
What kind of work? I mean, when people come to me, if it's an investor looking, VC looking to fund a project, or, I think we all do it. We all go on their website. What are you funding? Who are your clients? What kind of work are you doing? What's your,
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, it's a credential check, and if people aren't comfortable with what you're doing, they're not going to hire you.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, my friend Marissa, she puts it like your website is your 24/7 salesperson. Really?
Yes. Yeah, at least me, I don't engage with anyone unless I feel comfortable with what they have online, because it is the new business card.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's. So again, the common misconception is that a website is advertising. It's not. It doesn't matter what age demographic you are. You're going to research a company. You're going to see what they're up to. If it's someone that you think you want to engage with, that, credibility is what matters. No one engages with anyone that doesn't have like, hey, this is what we're capable of. This is what we're doing. This is how we've helped people. This is,
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. And, the way technology has gone in the digital era that we're in is you don't need to be a Fortune 5000 to afford tech. Like, tech has revolutionized where, the business making 50 grand a year or the business making, 50 billion. It doesn't matter.
They might use the same exact platform to build their website.
Like that's where tech has gone. So, if someone thinks, oh, well, I don't really make enough money to afford this, or there's so many options. There's so many solutions. You do not need to be a big business or even a medium-sized business or the higher end of a small business to afford it. That's the beauty of it.
I mean, realistically, like if you cut down into elements, you can probably, if you're just a single entrepreneur, you can probably keep your tech business costs about $100 to $150 a month.
Yes.
Yeah, if you're smart about it, you can realistically keep it there.
Yes. Look at CRMs, for example. It's kind of, you pay a cost per seat, right? So if you have one guy, if you have 5,000 it's 5,000 sales team, it's all, the major ones, they start at $80 per seat per month, right? Where there's so many better cost-effective options in the sense of CRM, and with open source programs that you can integrate and customize, and rather than paying, because at the end of the day, when you at some point you're going to part with that company, right?
Yeah.
If it's a recession, if it's, a drought in work, all right, how do we cut costs? There's other CRM options, and CRM is a broad term. Some people use it for a sales tool. Some people use it for logistics tracking, orders, things like that. You can build out and custom tailor a CRM around your business in a one-time cost. And it's not you could spend, $2,500, you could spend 25 million, but there's so many options that are on the lower side of that scale where, a lot of people have the idea that they don't want to rent forever, right? Because at the end of your rent, like, you have nothing to show for it.
Sure.
So you take that idea and you apply it to these CRM companies. At the end of the day, if it's, 6 months, if it's 30 years, like, when you part ways at one point or another, like, you have nothing to show for your investment. Sure. It's all gone. It's money lit on fire.
Sure.
And why rent when you can buy? I guess is a common analogy I use.
Yeah.
A CRM is something that in the pace of the business world, it's not something you'd be without. There's only so many Excel sheets you can pop open and log it,
So what would be like an effective way of building that? Because the way I always look at these things, like I go definitely for at this point in my business, I'm going for the lower end. Like, I'm using HubSpot, but I'm using the free version for now until I have, like you said, like a reason to actually step up into that cost. I think it's like $900 a year or something like that. So like, what would be an option of actually building something out? Like, let's say you're a small company, what would the benefit cost kind of be roughly of building out a CRM, something to manage, clients and sales and tie that into marketing? And like, what would be an approach that you can take? Where would you even start?
You take open source programs, and integrate, the certain add-ons that you need. If it's product inventory, if it's online sales orders, if it's endless. I mean, there's no limit to customizing it. But so you take the 900 a year. What do you take? I mean, in 4 years, just about, you're already gonna, by going to a one-time development, you've already, in another 4 years, it's not going to cost you that again.
Yeah.
So you take that 900. I mean, in 4 years, you've already made your investment back, and it's free forever.
Yeah.
You can tie it to your website. If you have a remote operation, you can put it on the backside of your website where, employees can log in, or you can store it locally. There's so many options. The CRM products are great. And these companies is a really innovative way to disrupt the business industry and make it more efficient. But again, when you get to 10,000, when you get to 50,000, when you get to 100,000, it's just money that you have no return to show. And even if you have these CRM companies develop and customize your product, again, even with the added expense of that, you still, when you part ways for whatever purpose, you still have not, like, that stays with them. Like, you don't get to take that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you can like basically download spreadsheets of the data, and
it is literally endless. It's literally for the one-time build-outs. It's so cost effective. It's so affordable. You know, it's a no-brainer. But people don't know that those options exist because you need to have that conversation. Right?
Yeah.
And if you're, a small local company with, a few employees and you're paying $200 a month, well,
sure.
That adds up, right? And then
Sure.
over the course of time, and then you topple on, your employees' benefits and taxes and now you take that $200 at the end of the year, and then you start tacking on all the expenses of the time that everyone got used to that program.
Yeah.
And it just builds and builds and builds. And then you're like, at some point you're just, well, I've already spent $50,000. I'm just going to stay with it. I'm going to go burn another $50,000.
Yeah. So I see what you're saying. So really where it starts coming in is when you get to that scaling level, is even no matter how small the scaling is, that's where you start to get into that cost effective space. Like if you got a CRM and, like you said, $200, $300 a month for a small team of 4 or 5, building something out might actually get you to that same dollar amount in 2 years versus me, who might be there and it would take 4 years to build it out, and I don't know where my business is going to be. It might make sense to actually stick with something that's pre-built and I don't have to deal with it. But as you grow a company, then you might get back to that ROI quicker, and you don't have these data transfer issues. Yes. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And it doesn't matter. I mean, financial reps, right? People are selling life insurance. I mean, you don't have to necessarily be a corporation to need a CRM. You could be an individual, like our friend.
Yeah.
He has his own business. He's a single individual, running a business. So it doesn't matter if you're an independent rep or an established company, you still need the sales tool.
Yeah.
But again, the beauty of that is the solutions that are available to people are so cost effective and so affordable. It doesn't matter if you're an individual, a company, if you're doing sales, you need it.
Yeah, you need something to keep track of it. Otherwise, you just lose it,
Yeah.
So, yeah. No, I agree. So that's all right. That's interesting. I'll have to look into that because I didn't even know that was really an option. Like, you always kind of know that you could build something yourself maybe or have it built, but I never really looked at it like that. So, all right, interesting. Yeah. I'll circle back to that after this. I might have to pick your brain on that too. Dude, I wanted to talk to you about cryptocurrencies if you're open to it.
Yeah.
And I think so, rather than kind of like an overview of cryptocurrencies and stuff, I kind of want to talk to you about like NFTs and also using like cryptocurrencies as actual currencies. So we talked a little bit about this a couple weeks ago, but what are some of the ways that maybe people don't really think about this, but what are some of the ways that people are starting to use like cryptocurrencies as real currencies instead of just like an investment that I put cash in that goes up and then I take cash out? How are people using this in like a commerce setting that you've seen?
I guess that could be a 5-foot view or a 50,000-foot view.
What about 25,000 foot?
So, a lot of companies, I mean, we have a blockchain division now.
Okay.
We're building products and projects on the blockchain. The blockchain, it's a decentralized authority.
Yeah.
right? Which everything that we've known since birth is, get a job, get a checking account, get insurance, which is an all centralized location. People, the beauty of decentralized is not controlled by one entity.
Sure.
And that is in large part some of our problems in society with censorship, for example.
Totally. Yeah.
Some of these platforms that don't infringe on your free speech, a lot of them are under attack right now.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, they people are going after them. We want you to shut these people.
Yeah, I mean,
silence.
I don't know if I can really mention companies, but I think everyone knows the one in the last year that got booted off the server.
Yeah, Parler with I mean, that was pretty scary that they got kicked off of AWS at that point. I mean, I can wrap my head around people at Facebook or Twitter kicking people off. It's not a good practice, or YouTube kicking them off, or demonetization. But when the actual servers behind the scenes can get shut off because of whatever they determine, that's kind of scary.
Yeah, and from the app stores to AWS, if Parler was a decentralized application, the beauty of that is no one has the authority to tell you get out, for lack of better words. Telegram, they're under attack because they don't infringe on your First Amendment, right? So
is that one of these encryption chat services? I'm thinking of Signal.
Signal is an end-to-end encryption.
Okay. What is Telegram?
Telegram's another a WhatsApp or
okay.
But they're WhatsApp is owned by a big tech company, right? And they updated their privacy policy that sell your conversations to third parties to no matter what magnitude that you're talking on there, if it's business, proprietary, personal. But the decentralized applications, from the banks to everyday tools, communication tools, there's a decentralized system is where the world is going.
Yeah.
The fact is that, when you have one single entity controlling pretty much every aspect of your life, it alludes to the problems that we have today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even just looking at, I'm reading this book. It's called Lives of the Stoics.
Yep.
And it's it's basically a history of these Stoic philosophers in Rome and the course of Rome and how it grew, and then the tyrants and stuff like that. And once that power gets really centralized, it does become scary. And you look how it devolves. I didn't know this, but in Rome after Nero, the emperor who killed a shitload of people, there was 4 emperors in 3 years or something like that. And they one guy lasted 3 months, another guy lasted 6 months. They just get killed. They'd kill a bunch of people, then they get killed, and it just threw everyone's lives in turmoil. It is strange when a group gets centralized power, that if things aren't super tight knit, things can go south real quick. So why do you think things are moving more decentralized? What trends are you seeing?
I mean, it's literally from social media platforms, communication platforms. The finance market is, no one really knows this because, the government, right? They don't like to talk about the dirty details. They just want you to know what they want you to know, right? So, a lot of banks right now are rushing into blockchain because, again, getting away from a central authority, and the decentralized, the fact that when you go into a decentralized system, you basically become your own bank. You don't need to get it, have an ID, have a birth certificate, the way technology has been made available to the world. Blockchain takes that a step further with anyone that is comfortable with blockchain. You know, it doesn't matter if you're in rural America, if you're in a third world country. You know, you can. The whole world can have a financial tool.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, and the thought behind that is because it's decentralized. It's I'm a butcher this, but it's decentralized. It's run from basically hundreds of thousands or millions of different endpoints or computers that are validating this single ledger. So it's all these different validation points. So, you know, it's harder to manipulate. It's an open view of like the transaction of money.
Yes.
Okay.
It can't be manipulated. It can't be deleted. It can't be devalued.
Can it be like, can people fuck with it or something, or get it to shut down? Because I know there was something with Ethereum a few years ago where something split off. Or is there a way that you could like literally go in and put something that like, I don't know, this is the wrong word, but like deauthorizes the ledger or like makes things not line up? Well, like how does that stuff resolve? That
was an issue in the beginning. And since then they have countered that problem with what's called cold storage.
Okay.
So you have your money on the blockchain. It doesn't matter if it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dodge, Litecoin. The cold storage, for layman's terms, it adds encryption on top because everything is code. Everything is a digital file.
Okay.
So when you have money on the blockchain, you can get a cold storage that is it's a wallet, but there's no money that can be sent without the cold storage. And the cold storage wallets, like I have one, it's called SafePal. SafePal.io is the website. You cannot spend that money without verifying. You scan a QR code, an encrypted QR code, and that QR code is essentially treated as a signature. So you can't steal the money. You can't take any money out without verifying it on cold storage.
Okay.
Right? Because the cold storage essentially throws encryption on top of it that cannot be screwed with.
Okay. So like it's almost like a multi-factor authentication in a way where you have the general ledger that is validating everything, and then for the individual, maybe not even person, but crypto wallet, then you have additional cold storage.
Yes.
That has its own code that needs to validate to the bigger blockchain.
Yes.
Okay.
So it doesn't connect on Wi-Fi. It can't be accessed. You know, someone having a code reader in their pocket at the grocery store. It's like it doesn't connect on Wi-Fi. It doesn't connect on internet activity. So there's no way to hack it. Like,
is that what this is? So Steve over in the other office who I was telling you about, we did the podcast together. This is a Ledger Nano S. It's a cryptocurrency hardware wallet. Is this basically like a version of that in a way? Yeah,
this is a simple version of it.
Okay.
But again, it doesn't need to be complicated.
Sure.
You know, everyday people can use it. It's, you know, it's a beautiful thing. You know, I mean, when Bitcoin started, it was like $20.
Yeah.
Some stupid number low.
Yeah, it's like $50,000 now or something.
No, it's in the 60s.
It's back to the 60s?
Yeah. I mean, you see these countries. Again, I don't know how political I should.
Dude, go for it. Honestly, yeah.
You know, the central banks, right? The JP Morgans, the major banks of the world. They extend the currency to the government, right? The U.S. government. And then the government gives it, you know, they extend it down to us for us to use as a working economic tool.
Okay. So
everything. So the money in your account's not really your money. It's a borrowed currency, and it's a debt system.
What do you mean?
So like the stimulus that was passed previously, all the stimulus, the central banks get like 10 cents on the dollar. So times that 10 cents by trillions of dollars. So
all right. So how does that work? So what do you mean they get 10 cents on the dollar, the central
to
bank?
extend the currency, to let us use that currency system.
All right, hold on. Let do the 1 minute for dummies version to get to this part. So you have the JP Morgans, these large commercial banks that we know, I'll call them that, and they lend money to the central government, like to our central government.
Yes.
And then they roll out the money to the people.
Yes.
So, okay, so if I've got like a bank account with Chase or Bank of America or something like that, that's like a proxy, or it's like a routed type thing.
It's everything's on the debt system. You borrow the money to extend it to people. You pay interest on it. The U.S. dollar has lost, I think the number is 98% of its value, because government just borrows and borrows and borrows, and every time they borrow, they create a debt. So the money that you have in your account actually costs someone else money. So your savings is costing somebody else in the economic system debt. So it's very...
What's an example of that?
So look at El Salvador, right? So they just bought 500,000 Bitcoins in the last few months. They're getting away from the centralized banking system.
Okay.
The interest, I mean, look at people that have become millionaires on Bitcoin. Because you're getting return, you're earning money because it's a limited supply. When you have a limited of something, it's worth more because there's only so much available.
Sure.
Whereas the debt ceiling is sitting at something like $30 trillion.
Yeah.
30 trillion might as well be 500 trillion.
It's like a number you can't even fathom.
Right.
It's hard to even fathom $1 billion. If you really think about it as just a person, fathoming $1 billion is nuts. Now times that by, what is that? 30,000 would be 30 trillion is 30,000 more than a billion, I think. Yeah. 3,000 or 30,000.
There's actually an equation. This is how messed up it is people, they're bored, they tap their finger, they play with. You would have, all day, every day, you would have to tap your finger for 24,000 years to get to 1 trillion times. It's nuts.
For 24,000 years?
Yes. You would be here doing this 24,000 years. For 1 trillion.
Shit.
Yeah.
Better start tapping.
Yeah, and you're seeing inflation, right? You're seeing the cost of gas, the cost of food, and the overall everyday expenses of life.
Yeah, they're starting to go up. And all right, so going back to El Salvador on this, and then I'll kind of tell you why this stuff started piquing my interest, and maybe we can dive into that. But all right, so what's going on in El Salvador? They bought half a $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, or half a billion.
They
Bitcoin?
bought 500.
It's a large number of Bitcoin.
50,000 coins or 500,000 coins. I forget the exact number, but so when you don't have a centralized authority, you don't owe anyone money. You don't owe anyone interest. You don't have a debt system. It's because everyone becomes their own bank. You're not paying. You actually get interest on your investment, right? We're not talking about 3 cents a month that you get in your everyday checking or quarterly, right? It's peanuts. It's
can't wait to reinvest that 3 cents.
The dollar has been so devalued. Like they were saying, there was an article that I want to say, and I don't know the exact year, but it was like in the 40s, that the economic system was prospering so massively that one income was supposed to be able to support an entire household.
Yeah.
Now what are you doing? You're working 2 jobs. You're working a full-time job and a part-time job, and
Well, the numbers, like most Americans don't even have $500 in savings.
Right. And the beauty of the blockchain is right. So Bitcoin's sitting at a little over $60,000. You don't have to buy a whole coin. You can buy $20 of that coin. You can get into a small amount where you can get comfortable with it, play with it. You get these central authorities that are, what do they say? They say Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies is used by cartels, drug dealers. But sure, it's funny how major retailers are accepting it.
Yeah.
It's so bad that the major corporations take it, right?
Well, cartels use cash.
Yeah.
They use all kinds of stuff. So,
it's really a people's focused currency, and not everyone believes in it. And hey, you gotta do what you're comfortable with, right? But
so where does the breaking from the debt system? So if you've got the general ledger, then, so if I'm following right, you've got the general ledger that everybody has their own money, basically. It's validated there. I kind of see how there's like no quote debt there, right? Like you're not indebted, or it's more like the currency can't be put into debt. Is that more of the issue? Because like I guess regular people, there's going to be people that find themselves in debt regardless of what currency it is. But like, how does that? I don't even know what the right question to ask is on this, but do you see what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
Okay.
So I guess firstly, I'm speaking on an individual level, so I'm not speaking on the side of field force systems. But on the individual level and the crypto, it's a people's focused currency. It's not regulated. It can't be regulated. It cannot be manipulated. It cannot be devalued. And that's what the hatred is with the government, why they hate it.
Okay.
They cannot, again,
dude, you're good. You're good. It's all good. I want to hear your honest opinion about this, because people are confused as shit about this, and there's so much different information with all different forces behind it. So I want to hear the honest side of it.
The economic system it's a mathematical equation. The economic system, we're going into a Great Depression. Like the dollar, everything you know about the dollar is going away. The dollar, the gum on your shoe has more worth than the dollar at this point. Like we're never paying that $30 trillion back.
I just don't see how it's possible.
It's, our generation, our kids, like this is, it's kind of the debt ceiling, right? It's a credit card, right? So if you have Amex, Chase, whatever, you have a certain limit. So when the government keeps raising the limit,
that's what they're talking about with the raising the debt ceiling limit.
Right.
Okay. All right.
The purpose, the textbook definition of a debt ceiling is like, this is it. This is all you have. But when you raise a debt ceiling, you're essentially creating an endless and wide open credit card to spend forever. If it was 30 trillion or, some zillion dollar number. But again, the more Nixon took us off the gold standard, right? So the gold standard kind of held in regulation what the dollar was worth at one time. So when they removed the gold standard, it became a print frenzy, right?
Yeah.
So like it took, I was reading an article, I think the first 200 years, it took about 200 years to spend $1 trillion.
In the first 200 years of America?
Yes. Now it's like, whatever, $85 billion.
There's bills for more than $1 trillion.
Right? And it's, blockchain, it's a beautiful thing because, no matter what side you're on, right? And I don't care I respect whatever people want to believe in, but neither side benefits from higher food costs, higher gas, higher taxes, less money in your pocket, right? Well, no one benefits from that.
And it makes people wonder, like, what? I personally think a big part of this great resignation and all this stuff is a decent amount of people not understanding what is even happening with our currency. If you look at these numbers, like almost all the currency that's in, or half the currency that's in circulation now is printed in the last year and a half. Like people are looking at these things. I'm spending 40, 50, 60 hours a week, busting my ass. I won't, like, prices are going up, so I'm able to afford less than I was. Like, people are like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, what would I spend my time doing this for? What's the point?
Well, the whole system is broken.
Okay? It definitely seems that way.
So the central banks, there's two systems at play right now. One is the decentralized system, which is where we want to go because it serves us instead of big government. The other is the centralized currency. So, you know, I mean, the government's drunk on power. It's drunk on corruption.
Yeah.
And again,
I 100% agree. Like, I don't look at any politicians and go like, yeah, I trust that person.
Yeah. You know, look at Big Pharma, right? They gave you a problem, like, you know, people get addicted to drugs, right? But so they sell you the problem, but then they sell you the solution. So, you know, you know, the central banks, you know, these politicians, and again, I don't want to upset your audience, but they're corrupt.
Yeah.
Right. You get a public salary of $144,000, but somehow they're worth $90 million.
Gee, I wonder. Very smart investors, I think.
You know, they are, I mean, it's corruption. It's, you know, they'll say, oh, you know, I made money in my book deal, or my husband owns investments. It's all a smoke show.
Yeah.
You know,
so is that the benefit of the blockchain, is that it does eliminate some of that capability to do the smoke show aspects?
No one's sitting. If I was in the central bank office, I could not sit in front of a computer and send $800 million to, you know, a private corporation that I have. And then, you know, it's just when human psychology, man is strong, but man is also weak, right? Like there's certain, well, you know, at my fingertips, I have trillions of dollars to spend, whether for reasons right, wrong, or indifferent. Like I have that central ability to steal, to embezzle, to launder.
So if you have a country like, all right, so I'm kind of following what you're saying, is like with our system right now, we have 30 trillion in debt, and we have this credit limit, this debt limit, the ceiling that we just keep pushing up. So really, it's kind of getting to the point where it's not even a thing anymore. Right. It's kind of like a blank check. So it's a joke. It's a joke. So you got this corruption that feeds into that, because I know that number wasn't that high even 10 years ago. I feel like it was like less than half of that. Yeah. So this is like an exponential curve. This is a real inconvenient truth. The graph is applicable to this. So like if you have like debt ceilings that just keep going up and up and up, I don't see a way that this can be sustained. Like you said, I don't see a way that we could ever pay our way out of this unless you literally devalued the whole currency so much that, like, kind of like what happened post World War I Germany, where you have fucking troughs of money and you can't buy bread. So like, that's kind of what concerns me there. So, all right, let's park that there, and then let's come back to El Salvador. So if their government bought that much Bitcoin, how do they kind of plan to roll that out to the country? And then what does that look like in terms of their country, their economic system? Like, how do they use that on a day-to-day basis? And then what does that look like in their relations to trade in the rest of the world? I know that I'm asking you a shitload of questions on this, but you're 10 steps, you're 50 steps ahead of me on this. So even if you can like lay some of that out, what's going on with that?
So I guess if we can real quick touch on the centralized versus decentralized.
Sure.
Essentially where we're going in a centralized system is if they don't like what you're saying, government, if they don't like what you're saying, if you go against their agenda, their narrative, they will essentially be able to lock you out of your money from the top. Whereas right now, you got to go to the judge, got to get an asset order. You know, it doesn't matter if you have food to buy, bills to pay. If they don't like what you're doing, they're going to be able to shut you out of your money.
Yeah.
And that's the beginning and end of it. There, you know, whether that upsets the left or right, it just no one benefits from having that kind of overreaching control. Like,
No.
we are a nation built on an individual sovereignty, like, the government serves us, we don't serve government.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
It doesn't feel like that right now, but yeah.
so getting into a decentralized authority, a decentralized currency, where it's a people's focused money. You know, El Salvador, because, right, so these central banks, they let you use their dollar system, right? But it's, well, we're going to give you X amount of money, but this is the interest you're going to owe us, right? So when you have something over an individual, a country, whatever you want it to be, they have leverage on you. So, like, you essentially become enslaved to them, you know, and that's where we are, where, you know, we've used their currency, they've spent endlessly, you know.
Yeah.
You know, they have, you know, now we owe the central banks so much money back. You know, I think the exact number is like 28 trillion or something.
Somewhere close to 30.
Yeah. You know, so, you know, you just keep countries in debt forever. I mean, it's all an illusion that the dollar is worth something. The fact that you believe the dollar, right? So we came off
just
the
point
gold
this toward your mouth.
So we came off the gold standard, right? And then, you know, it was, all right, Fed, which is a private corporation.
Yeah, that blew my mind to find out that the Fed's a private corporation.
Which is why, you know, big government doesn't like you talking about the dirty details. They just, again, you know what they want you to know. So it's very, you know, it's going, when you get away from them, you know, you're because I think we can all agree on some level that our politicians are paid for, right?
Yeah.
I think
there's a ton of lobbyist groups. There's a ton of all this stuff. Yeah.
They've turned our Constitution into a self-serving business where they steal from us.
Yeah.
We don't consent to, you know, the hundreds of millions of dollars that they're sending overseas instead of helping our homeless veterans, right? The people that sacrificed everything and deal with everything.
They're not important, like, Brett.
Yeah. Like, and again, no matter what side you're on, like, they're, you know,
it's just basic stuff that you can look at that's going on that you're like, this doesn't make sense. Right. So that's where the decentralized versus the centralized comes in.
You know, countries are breaking. Look at the Miami mayor.
What happened with that?
He just announced that he wants to pay city employees in Bitcoin. He wants to make Bitcoin payments available to city residents. It's the future, getting away from the central control and the central corruption. It's like that. It's where we're going. We're in transition right now. The dollar. So I have ADD, so I'm kind of bouncing all over the place.
I'm in a similar boat, so hell yeah.
What has, since being removed off the gold standard, the fact that you believe the dollar is worth something is all that gives it value. So when someone says, well, why is Bitcoin worth what they say it's worth? Which is a legitimate question and a reasonable question. Well, that's exactly what the dollar system is. The fact that you believe that the dollar is worth what they say it is all that keeps it alive.
Sure.
Whereas, you know, cryptocurrencies, there's a limited supply, right? So you have a limit of something, it's worth more because it's not an abundance of something.
Sure.
It's limited. And that's part of what makes, you know, these cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or Ethereum that make them worth what they're worth. You know, I mean, how many how many households, making $500 a week, you overdraft your account and get whacked with a $35 fee? Again, the system has been so twisted to further put us in debt,
Yeah.
and make them flourish.
Yeah.
The central banks, the money, the blockchain is it's when countries start getting away from the debt system, they stop owing people. They stop owing a central authority that have corrupt individuals in their network. You get away from a lot of monetary problems.
Interesting. Okay.
Government, again, our politicians, they are public servants. They serve us.
Or they're supposed to.
They're confused how the Constitution works. So getting more into a people's focused money, a currency that works for us, a currency that we benefit from, a currency that we earn interest on, like that's part of, again, we're a sovereignty built on people, its citizens, right?
Yeah.
And that's what the blockchain offers to people is the fact, you win, right? You are your own bank. You are your own authority. And there are some risks with the blockchain, and it requires some level of responsibility. But I mean, as opposed to having someone else be able to shut you out of your money.
Yeah.
For far too long, we've got comfortable with government telling us what to do, government making the rules for us.
Yeah.
Right? Trusting government. Government's the answer. Big government is not the answer. Individual government, individual responsibility, you, me, our neighbors, our coworkers, our fellow man. We've gotten away from making the rules ourselves. Something that we agree with, something that we want.
Yeah.
Not what big government wants or big government benefits from or big government seeks.
Yeah.
It's so El Salvador, when they're getting out of the debt system, I mean, there's countries around the world that are introducing. It's not Greece. It might be the UK. Some countries they're switching out of the fiat system and going into cryptocurrencies, or they're starting to introduce certain cryptocurrencies as legal tender. I mean, El Salvador, it's not the richest country in the world, right? But they're making the move on the national stage.
Sure.
They're catching other world leaders by what are they doing?
Yeah.
Because you're going to see a lot of people thrive and prosper. And, when we get through, what is ahead, when we get through the other side of it, I mean, the people are going to prosper, and it's going to be an economy that no one has ever imagined.
At least not in our lifetime.
Right. And, Bitcoin isn't probably going to be the end all be all of currency.
Sure.
Things are going to evolve. Things are going to get more advanced. But it's a step in the right direction where the money, our currency, is serving us rather than our officials.
Yeah.
And that's really, I mean, you remove the money, you remove the money, the central authority handling our money, and you remove a lot of the corruption. There's no more, hey, I'll give you $30 million, but this is how you got to vote.
Yeah. Sure.
Again, I keep saying this. I don't want to upset your audience or,
No,
it's something we're in. It's something we are going forward with. There's no stopping it. People are tired of being in debt. You get out of high school, the whole system has talked you into going to college, right? So, you get it into $250,000 in student loans, and you make a job that you make 40, 50 grand a year. And it's,
forget a
after
quarter,
you're-
forget a quarter million. Even I know a bunch of people that are $30,000 to $40,000 in debt, but you throw a 16% interest rate on top of that, and it's never ending, because if you're in that $40,000 or $50,000 job, you can't catch up to that. Like
Right.
I had this kind of revelation that this is why what you're saying to me doesn't sound crazy, right? Because after college, I graduated, and I ended up going to Orlando to work for this company that was basically borderline scam company. I didn't realize it at the time, but it was a call center. People call in thinking they're asking, like, interviewing for a job, but really what you do is you transfer them over to an education advisor who then gets their consent to have like colleges, online colleges, call them nonstop. So you're basically like an education lead generation.
Right.
It sucked. It was
Right.
terrible. It was one of the worst jobs ever. But they said, "Oh, we're rolling out this new section of the company. We're gonna do this thing, other thing to help people, blah blah blah." And then I looked at really like the infrastructure of it. So there's like all these feeder companies, and then there's a company called Nelnet that really gives all these different resources and things like that to really let people, get funding and take tests and aptitude, and it all funnels back to like the central government's like student lending division, and it's all primarily like federal loans for that stuff, which you can't file bankruptcy and get out of. And I realize it's kind of like a modern day, it's some form of like indentured servitude or slavery or something like that, because you're told as a kid, and especially like probably our generation, is go to the 12 years, go to a good college. Why go to a good college? You can go there for 4 years. If you do good, you'll get out and you'll be making at least $50,000, $60,000 right off the bat. Boom, no problem, you're good. And everybody was just like, okay, 45 people have told me this over the past 5 years. This must be true. And then you get out and you're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what is this? I'm in a call center. I have a 4-year degree. I'm in a call center taking 35 calls a day from an automated machine. Like, what am I doing with my life? Like, why did I do all this? And people just go into this kind of debt, and I think people are kind of sick of that.
Well, look at taking a credit card, for example. So, you have a $500 credit limit.
Yeah.
So you spent $100, but you owe $150. So not only
if you don't pay it.
Well, no, you pay, whether you pay it or not, you still accumulate interest on the money that they've extended to you, right? So if it's a 30% credit card, if it's a 16.9, when you borrow, you create debt, right? So the blockchain, removing the debt system, you have what you have in cryptocurrency. So you're no longer in a debt system where you borrow, but you owe. Yeah. Not only your principal, but also your interest. It's kind of like blockchain has gone up. Bitcoin has gone up and down, right? So, when they release propaganda, it goes down a little bit, but it shoots right back up.
Sure.
It's going to be a front runner for now and in the future. I mean, they're saying that Bitcoin is going to get to like 100K. Right now, it's like 60,145. I think when I checked like a couple hours ago. So you get out of the debt system. You don't owe credit. I mean, you borrow and borrow, right? Because they tax the hell out of you. They charge you tax at the gas pump. They charge you tax at the grocery store. They tax you to pick your nose. When you get in, it's kind of, Bitcoin is the opposite. You gain money, you gain interest, you gain value on your cryptocurrency. So you don't owe on cryptocurrency, you gain value on your cryptocurrency. Again, the debt system.
Okay.
so countries that are picking up the cryptocurrencies, no matter what cryptocurrency it is, people are they're going to earn money on their money instead of owe debt on their money.
Sure.
That simple explanation is just a beautiful thing, because you're like, when I first started, I'll admit I was I don't really, at the time I didn't really know much about blockchain, cryptocurrency. So, I bought whatever, $20. $20 is a coffee. You don't care if you lose $20 as opposed to 20 grand, right? So, you can buy in such little amounts. You can test it out. You can, play with it, get comfortable with it, know it, learn it. And you're in control of your money. It's such, getting back to our own sovereignty is such a, and what, your audience might not agree, and whatever their purview is, I respect their, I don't,
whatever.
Please don't, hold what we're talking about against my company.
Don't send death threats to Brett, please.
Please don't leave any bad reviews, because we have opposing, whatever you believe in, I respect that. It's your choice. And, that's the beautiful thing about individual sovereignty. You have the right to choose, right to believe, right to form your own opinion, right to, no one has all the answers, and there's not, what I think might not be right, it might be wrong, and vice versa.
Yeah, but it's an important piece, because you know a lot about this stuff. You clearly are pretty well versed in this, and I know for me, it's like this has been helpful, just layering on the knowledge of this stuff, because part of this, like you said, people don't even know where to start. Same thing like in business is when it comes to cryptocurrency. The big reason why people are in business is to make money, and when it comes to this stuff, it's very uncertain what's going to happen with all of our money, and kind of need to start looking at alternate things.
Look at credit card processors, right? The middleman. They're, you charge an invoice on a credit card and they take 4% of your transaction.
Yeah.
The blockchain creates a person-to-person payment. It creates, an entity to entity. There's no middleman. There's no, there's no added layer taking their cut.
Yeah.
It's my director, my sales director. He actually taught me a lot about what I know. With what we've done on blockchain projects and the projects that we're picking up with on the blockchain, we kind of play a nice tandem role where my development teams and my architects, we have the technical portion of the tech, right? And then, my director, he brings it, because he did hedge funds, and so he's well versed in the financial part of it. So it just makes a really nice team. A lot of what I learned was from him, and then there's great educational videos. I mean, people, listen, we're going into a very bad time, and it's going to get better at the other end of it, but it's going to get far worse before it gets better. People need to start protecting what they have for assets. If it's cryptocurrencies, if it's precious metals, cryptocurrency isn't the only answer. Precious metals, because again, getting into the value of Bitcoin, there's like 1 million pounds of gold in the earth. There's 600,000 pounds of silver. Again, it's limited. A limited supply of something is worth more than something of an endless.
Sure.
A printing frenzy.
Sure.
We're, no matter what side of the spectrum you're on, if you think cryptocurrency is crazy, if you think it's absolutely asinine,
then go the traditional route. Then,
right.
Yeah.
Make your choice. Decide what you're comfortable with, and you know, I know someone that has bought into Bitcoin, made millions of dollars. I mean, there's people that are becoming millionaires just by trading, you know, owning cryptocurrencies.
Sure.
You know, obviously, I don't like to see people get hurt or, you know, run into a situation where they're like, what am I going to do? How am I going to feed my family? Like, I don't think anyone with a sense of, you know,
decency.
Yeah, like no one wants to see that, right? So, you know, and that's why, I mean, as I have learned more about blockchain and cryptocurrencies and the value of getting away from centralization, I have grown more passionate about it where, you know, I'll talk to people, and even if they have an opposing view, hey man, that's cool. You know,
Sure.
it's great. You know, but I like to have the conversation because I don't want to see people in a jam. I don't think anyone really does. I mean, I think if you do, you're probably a shitty person.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I talk to people. I mean, you and I had a great conversation, you know, about getting away from big government, getting away from centralized money, getting away. I mean, you know, when I first bought in,
Just point this toward, yeah.
When I first bought in, you know, the $20 that I threw in turned to 60, turned to 200, turned to 800.
Yeah.
Starting at $20.
I had that with Dogecoin, believe it or not. I bought Dogecoin. I bought $50 worth of Dogecoin in 2018.
Nice.
Yeah.
Just
play. That was part of what got me thinking about this stuff. Another part that got me thinking about it as currency was John McAfee, the McAfee security guy.
Yeah.
He commits suicide, quote. He literally had a fucking tattoo on his arm that says, "I will not kill myself. Like, if I commit suicide, I didn't do this." But, like, I only found out because he was in the news for having committed suicide in a Spanish prison for something over currency. And then I watched some interviews that he did, and he was talking about using it as, like, a currency, you know, like actually paying for hotels and paying for things like that. And that was the first time where I was like, wow, all right, I need to get schooled up on this stuff.
Yeah.
So I know you have the people at your company that you work with. Like, have you seen, for me, for anybody else that wants to check it out, are there any like resources you've seen online that do a pretty good job? Yeah,
there's a site called 99bitcoins.com.
Yep, I remember you told me that.
It's free videos. You sign up for the newsletter. They'll send you a video every day. It's like 8 to 15 minutes. They'll go over like how the dollar was created. You know why. You know what happened when Nixon took us off the gold standard. Why we are where we are today. It breaks everything down. It's, I mean, they're free videos. You know, you can really, if you value your sovereignty and you want to see how you can, you know, gain wealth just by simply owning a cryptocurrency, I mean, it's well worth the few minutes a day to just learn about it. Learn about it at your own pace. There's not, you know, just get familiar with it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's no secret that people have become millionaires by getting into crypto.
Sure.
You know, it's sad where we are in a society with all the problems and, you know, the things that we're facing. You know, this is an opportunity for us to get out of that and get back to, you know, what we were founded on.
Yeah,
right?
well, it's this kind of what you're bringing up kind of makes me think, you know, I've heard the concept for maybe, I don't know, past 10, 15 years where people talk about like, oh, you need a new constitution and all that kind of stuff or blah, blah, blah. And I understand what most of them, as long as they don't have ulterior motives, like I understand why the average person would think that. But now as you're saying this, it almost seems like the fundamental change isn't going to come from government. It would come from the actual financial system.
Right.
Because in that way, I could be totally speaking out of school, but just from a surface level, it seems like the Constitution would actually work pretty well with a system like the blockchain.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it time and time again. Look at what happened with Parler from the app stores, from AWS. You know, they just cancel. If you can be canceled, that's a problem.
Yeah, big time.
You know, if you can be censored, that's a problem. If, you know, that's where government has alluded to, and this is our opportunity to get away from someone telling us what we can and cannot do. You know, we're not going to find our solution in government. We have to, you know, get with our neighbors, get back to, you know, caring for one another and valuing life. You know, we've all, it's kind of like crying after someone that's gone, right? Like, you should appreciate them while they're here.
Yeah.
Like, we've just kind of, maybe not lazy is the right word, but we've just found comfort in letting government lead the charge. And that is in part why we are where we are.
Sure.
You know, the government's not going to give us our answers. Government does not care about you, does not care about me, does not care about our loved ones. They don't care. Like,
yeah.
Let's just be honest, right? Like, there's
sure.
You know, so we have to get back to the, you know, the principles that are important. You know, the value of life. You know, you woke up today, you know, today there was someone that lost a child. Today there was someone that was paralyzed that will never have the same life they had yesterday. You know, and just, again, breaking away from the system that we've all been taught to know and work with. You know, just getting back to, you know, individual sovereignty is, it's how we're going to fix our problem in this country.
Sure.
Not, you know, that's not the only way we're going to fix it, but it's one of the many ways.
And with economic freedom, that is a gateway to do it.
Yes. You know? I mean, you know, again, I'm not going to list a specific politician, but, you know, right, so the stimulus money, like the $500 million that went to the Art Center, that art, you know, how these politicians have stolen from us. You know, individuals can send, you know, after the government pays a private entity, you know, then that private entity receives an invoice from an individual for consultancy services for $84 million. You know,
it seems
they
like,
hired me.
look,
you know.
I think you're overreacting. I think $84 million is a reasonable consultation fee for an art center. I don't know what
lunch
the problem.
money,
Yeah,
peanuts.
I don't know what the problem is, but
Pocket change.
Yeah. Well,
but that's, you know, the system is broken, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, and it's broken because of things like that, because, you know, a certain group of people have held control of our government for far too long, and they've just, corruption, that's how corruption starts.
Yeah. But that's the thing. I think that history shows even is that when things get like this, people do find another way. Like, I think that's a big part of it is, like, I don't view all hope as lost. I think I think that you're not saying that at all. I think you're saying the opposite, which is kind of maybe part of the cryptocurrency argument that you don't usually hear, is that all hope is not lost. But we do have to look at some alternate routes because, I don't know, things seem a little squirrely right now.
Right. We're gonna get, like, we're going to fix our problem one way or another, because no one in government's coming to any of us in this country and telling them, you're no longer free. You're now enslaved. We're now going to control when you drive, when you can spend, you know.
Yep.
It's kicking the hornet's nest. You know, we don't get our rights from government. We get our rights from our Constitution, the fact that we're citizens of such a great country, you know, a country that values its people and not government.
Yeah.
Right. When do you see people fleeing from the U.S. to another country? You don't. You see everyone fleeing here. And it's not because our country sucks. It's not because it's broken, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's something to think. I mean, really. People want to come here because you have an opportunity to build something so great for yourself and have your own freedoms, and, like,
that you just don't have in
right.
a lot of other places.
I mean, socialism, you go into a country, it's how many people in your family. Well, this is all the bread you can buy.
Yep.
You Google Cuba, right? And it's all these pretty buildings, all these beautiful landscape. And there's actually a video on YouTube. It's these 3 friends that went into Cuba expecting like this beautiful place. And it's all run down. It's, it's destroyed. And, when police are telling you to get to an embassy before you get stabbed to death. I mean, there's people that have been to these countries that talk about their experience. Gas lines a mile down the road. People have run out of gas, pushing their car to the gas station. People racing into the grocery stores because, everyone's so desperate for food. Like,
Yeah.
There's no place on earth that socialism and communism has worked. There's just not. I mean,
yeah.
My CFO is from Canada. He has come here because he was tired of paying 60% taxes. You make $90,000 a year, you're really making $30,000 after taxes. I mean, something has to pay for something. Yeah. Something doesn't come from nothing, right?
Yeah.
And again, anyone who doesn't like a capitalist system it's because our politicians have broken it. They've turned it against us.
Yeah.
It's not because capitalism doesn't work. It's because they have stolen our system and rigged our system against us.
Yeah.
And no matter what level of like politicalness that you're on, if you disagree with that point of view, I respect that. I don't hate you. I'm friends with people with opposing views. It's cool. That's what makes up a republic. You have the right to believe what you want to believe, right? So, there's grocery stores that are starting to take cryptocurrencies. I had someone told me the other day when he goes out to eat, he'll tip a waitress or tip a waiter in crypto.
Really?
Yeah.
How does he do that?
He just sends it from his wallet. You get a public wallet address, you send the money. And then, because what did,
start
restaurants,
getting that person into it and all that stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, restaurants alongside small business, restaurants is what is, there's a number of industries that are the backbone of our country, right? But
just point this towards you. You can even point it that way if you need to. Restaurants
are, it's made up of people, waitresses, waiters, bussers, cooks. So a waiter, because my family has successful restaurants. So I've been an entrepreneur family forever.
Sure.
The waitresses that are making $3.50 an hour because they're getting tips, and then they get taxed on their tips. Yeah. Again, just the system is broken. The system is rigged against us, and it's time for a change.
I agree. I agree, man. That's what interests me about all this stuff, and I'd like to kind of continue this conversation probably over the next few weeks and months as we go, and I'll learn some more about this stuff. But yeah, I appreciate you coming on and telling me about all this stuff and telling everybody about these things. So I really do think that people are curious about this stuff, and they don't really know why they should look into it, or some of the thoughts behind it. And this is very insightful. So I learned a lot from it.
I'd love to come back and take a deeper dive with you again. The people that are listening,
dude.
Please don't leave my company a bad review because my individual belief.
I don't think that you're saying anything on that front that, I don't know. I just don't think that it's a problem. I mean, look, you're in it. Your company is doing things on the blockchain. Like you can see where these trends are going. You're talking to people that are in that space. Like there's monumental changes in the world don't just happen because like everything is roses and you're just a crazy person that thinks this. Like, these are things that people are really concerned about. And dude, if people disagree, like, leave a comment, like, on my podcast, not on the Field Forces, but like engage with us with this stuff, because that's the only way that you can really learn is actually through these kinds of discussions. And if somebody disagrees, then chance for us to learn, or it's a chance for them to learn, or both of us learn. So
I mean, there's tons of videos.
Yeah,
they're free videos.
99 Bitcoin is one. So I signed up for it, but I didn't confirm it. So I'll go back and confirm the email, and I'll do the links. But
I mean, the worst case, if you don't find comfort in getting the cryptocurrencies, then continue doing what you're doing. But your takeaway is you learned something that didn't cost you anything.
Yeah.
It's free videos. I mean, just
Yeah, at least you might know something.
Yeah.
You know? So, well, and so, all right. So, Brett, where can people find you, your company? What's the best way to connect with you?
My website's Field Force, field, like soccer field force, like police force, and then sys.com, short for systems, Field Force Systems. If it's just we're not taking a salesy approach. It's, we want people to want to work with us, right? Because that's what makes a really flourished and prosperous relationship. So, there's no real sales, we're not in the parking lot of the dealership chasing you to go sign a contract. It's know your options. It doesn't hurt to know what options you have, how you can fix any pain points you have.
Sure.
Again, it's free to educate yourself, right? And just know what you can do. And then, I think what really makes us a really good company is that not only do we understand the tech and know the tech to the level that we do, but we're also passionate about what we do. And I think when you have the combination of that, it makes you that much better.
Yeah.
We've taken on accounts that had one guy handling their website, one guy handling their domain, one guy handling their DNS, one guy handling their cloud, one guy dealing their maintenance of their endpoints, which is, laptop or other computer. It's, you don't need 10 hands in the cookie jar, right? Like,
sure.
Field Force Systems can handle all of that for you. It's kind of, no matter what industry it is, I think, people rather call up one guy to yell at than 10 people, right? Like, it's just simplistic.
We can be that guy.
Yeah. I mean, I welcome you not to yell at me, but if you feel you need to.
I'll be a sounding board for you. Yeah. Cool.
But we love helping businesses. We love help, let's have a conversation. Let's just,
hell yeah,
know what you can do,
Well, Brett, thanks for coming and doing this. I appreciate it, man. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Have a good one.